What's going on, gamers? It's your boy Richie Bond bringing you my week 3 team builder matchup breakdown for my CGC Draft League match versus the Windy City Whimsies, coached by Grache. Grache's team is very... It's good. It's one of the better drafts in the league, probably the best draft in our division. It is immensely threatening. However, I'm going to do my best to see what I can do to take it out. It's not a great matchup, I'm going to be real with the people, but I have some really cute techs that I think might be able to give me some success in this matchup. Let's just start by reviewing Grache's team. The main reason, one of many reasons why Grache's team is so good is because she managed to nab the Tatsugiri TDOZO combination. Some of you might be wondering, like, why wasn't this banned for a VGC Draft League? Well, we decided to balance it by just making them both A tiers. In their own right, they're each probably closer to B, maybe even C, but because of their synergy, their powerful capabilities together, we put them in A, so that if someone really wanted to commit to the pair, they have to get both. And that's what Grace did. Grache picked up both. So Tatsugiri's here. Tatsugiri can be any color. I don't expect Droopy to be used. That'd be pretty interesting if it was. Actually, that might be good into what I'm breeding, but we'll get into that in a second. I'm expecting Droopy or Stretchy, probably boosting attack and or speed. I'm mostly expecting a Scarf set for Tatsugiri. I think Scarf is the best into my team, but a bulky one with Citrus Berry could work as well. Tatsugiri by itself isn't the craziest. It mostly just has Icy Wind, fires off big Draco Meteors, and that's it. TDOZO is generally always going to be running the same set. I did see a spec Surf TDOZO on the Showdown ladder the other day, and I was like, that's kind of cute. But it's mostly going to be physical. It's going to have some sort of sustain, whether it's rest or leftovers. It's going to have probably the moves between Order Up, Wave Crash, Earthquake. That's pretty much it. I know what to expect. So Unaware is quite interesting for an ability on this Mon. I think sometimes Grace might consider one of these other ones because these are all things that TDOZO wants that keeps it alive longer. I have a hunch, I have a suspicion that Grace may not choose Unaware this week. She may choose Oblivious because I have Intimidate on my team, and she may choose Water Veil because I have multiple options for burning this Pokemon. So a lot of I kind of anticipate that if she even brings this duo, if she doesn't bring this duo, then I overprepared. But if she does bring this duo, I need to determine what the ability is, and that's not super easy for my team necessarily, but I have some options that can handle it kind of no matter what either way. Grace was a genius to pick up Meowscarada, as it is one of the cleanest, just most concise answers to TDOZO, and she picked it up before anyone else could get it. She actually picked it up before TDOZO. TDOZO was pretty late in the draft. I think it was round 8. She picked up Meowscarada round 2. So this was really smart because not only is Meowscarada just good in its own right, like it's just good on the team because it's a good Mon, but it took away one of the easiest checks to TDOZO from any other coach. So just a really brilliant draft. Meowscarada is offensive. Flower Trick is a great move. It has some support moves. Usually you see Grass, Dark, and then coverage move of choice. Maybe U-turn, Protect, something like that. Sucker Punch. It is a little predictable, but it's very powerful in what it does. Both of its abilities are good, and it's pretty high speed. You might see that I was doing some speed calcs because I want to be able to jump this when I can because Meowscarada is fast. You gotta take care of it. This is really threatening to my Dragapult. It could Scarf and just outspeed Dragapult, or it could just Sucker Punch and do huge damage. So I have to respect Meowscarada for sure. Her Paradox choice was Sandy Shocks. Sandy Shocks is really cool. I think it was a really high value B tier. Our logic was that if we put it A tier, we didn't think anyone would get it. But it's a really, really great B tier. Electric Ground is a great typing. It's got really well-rounded bulk. It's got that nice 101 base speed. It's just a good Mon overall. Usually you see Earth Power, Thunderbolt, coverage move, Terra Blast, maybe support things. It's known for using Gravity. I'm not sure what that does for this team in general, but it's a good Mon. It's cool. I definitely have to respect it. It has some common weaknesses that I do have answers to beating. And generally Electric isn't super good against my team. I have a Ground type, I have a Volt Absorb, I have a Dragon type. It's just not super powerful, so I'm not super worried about it, but it could come up. She also picked up Palmot. Palmot is awesome. Really cool Mon. It's really annoyingly fast. If it was base 100, it'd be easier to deal with. It does significant damage. It has great abilities. Revival Blessing is ridiculous for TDOZO teams. This is a really, really potent Pokemon. It's mostly support, but it does huge damage as well. You can Terra Electric and go for Double Shock and just spam that super powerful move. What's that base? It's like 120? Yeah, 120 on Double Shock. So Palmot is pretty threatening, and it's very cute. Drifblim was a run back from Grace's BDSP draft. It's a really cool support. Does it still get the Strength Sap? It does. It gets Tailwind, it gets Strength Sap, it gets Will-O-Wisp. It has some really interesting, unique abilities. I'm not sure if Grace has really elegant ways to proc Unburden, but it could happen. I've seen her use Flare Boost, and Aftermath is just solid. It's just a decent ability. So generally, as support, you're not going to usually run this thing offensively, but you can. It's not going to do a ton of damage. It really wanted like Dynamax to do a lot of damage, but it's a very successfully annoying support. And I think if Grace brings it, has a pretty good matchup into my team, I could definitely see it coming. It's just a good mon. It's just solid, good old balloon. Espeon is one of Grace's personal favorites. It's pretty good. I mean, I think the main reason why it's here, besides it being her favorite, is for Psych Up. You can partner Psych Up your Dondozo. If you can manage to KO Tatsugiri somehow, like if you give it a Toxic Orb, or like you just make sure that it's KO'd while inside of Dondozo's mouth, you can switch something in for the Tatsugiri slot. If Espeon comes in and psychs up those Dondozo boosts, it's over. It's just doomed. Now, I do have a Dark type, which helps. It's not like for free. It's not a free win. I do have to kind of watch out for this thing. It is a little bit faster than I want it to be. Grace's team speeds are honestly like in a really good array. I think her draft is just phenomenal. Really, it covers a lot of bases. It's very powerful. The thing that Espeon is probably lacking is coverage, but Terra Blast helps makes up for that because you can pretty much give it whatever coverage move you want. All in all, I have to respect Espeon, but I'm not super worried about it. But I definitely have to be prepared to battle it because I can't let it get carried away by any means. Up next is Greedent. Greedent's great. I'm not super sure on what Greedent does. I don't think it's come to any matches yet. Yeah, I don't really know what it does. It's tanky. It does a little bit of damage. I know Cheek Pouch is a cute strat where like you can use a random berry that like increases your stats or something, like your defense perhaps. I'm gonna get some of your HP back, and then you can go for like iron. Oh, it does get iron defense. It gets some sort of defense raising move, but it gets body press still, right? Yeah. I remember that was a set from Gen 8. I think it's cool. Having a big power, like tanky normal type is always handy. I think this was a D tier. It's a pretty good value D tier. I probably gets Belly Drum still. It does. Does it get Quick Attack? No, it doesn't. That'd be sick if it got a priority move like that. Greedent's cool. I don't really know what else to say. Up next is Masquerain, which is also a throwback from the BDSP draft. It's a pretty underrated utility mon, especially in Draft League. Intimidate and Unnerve are both incredible abilities. It has some access to some pretty good support moves like Tailwind and String Shot. I don't think it gets Sleep Powder, but it's just interesting. Its worst part about it is its typing, which I mean is a good typing for fighting type switching. If you need it for your Terra Steel Dondozo or something, it's really not that bad. Its special attack is 100, which like for support like is pretty decent. I think this thing is easy to underestimate, but it can be really annoying in the right situation. So I have to respect it. I have to be prepared for it. Last but not least is Cloyster, which Grace picked for personal reasons. I think that this is a very potent mon. Shell Smash Scale Link will just always be good. Granted, that's kind of all it does unless you want it to be a tank, unless you want to take advantage of that crazy physical defense and just have it be a physical wall. You can't really afford to get away with like an all-around tank because of its HP and special defense are both so low. But if you just invest in HP, that defense is going to go crazy. So it's already at 200 with no investment, right? So Cloyster's really potent for a couple of things, and the water ice typing is just nice. Skill Link, as I said with Shell Smash, can be pretty wild. This is another target for Espeon to psych up as well. I wonder if that was part of the logic behind getting Espeon. Grace's draft is really threatening, but I have some cute techs. This is probably my spiciest team that I'm bringing to the CGC Draft League so far, so let's go over it. Here it is, the ragtag squad that I'm bringing to week 4. It's a little silly, it's a little ridiculous, but I think it'll work. Let me talk to you about it. I'm bringing Hex and Curse Dragapult, so this is kind of just dedicated to Dondozo stuff. So with this set, with Will-O-Wisp, I can figure out if it has Water Veil. Hex, if something is burned or has any other status, we have other ways to induce status on this team, is going to be really, really handy, really nice. And Curse on a Ghost type lets you defeat Dondozo in 4 turns because you lose half your HP. Sure, that's part of why I have Citrus Berries, so I can maybe stay alive a little bit longer. I'm reasonably bulky. Curse just puts Dondozo on a timer, which I can spam Protect. I can, have Vivian use Rage Powder. There's ways for me to just endure while Dondozo faints to Curse. So that's just it's a contingency plan versus Dondozo. We're also bringing Iron Valiant for the 2nd week in a row, and we're doing a crit set. This is kind of interesting. You might be wondering why. The primary reason is because Terra Grass Leaf Blade does pretty significant damage to Dondozo when it crits through those defense boosts. I've also incorporated Terra Grass if I want that extra damage push, and it's also Terra Grass is just a great type to have versus Dondozo. You'll see later on in the draft that we have other utility for this crit set, and we'll get there in a moment. We're bringing Vivian with Compound Eyes, not Friend Guard this week. I want to put stuff to sleep. If I can't burn it, I want to put it to sleep. Pollen Puff is great for support. Rage Powder lets me tank hits that my other Pokemon don't want to take. Redirection is really good into TDOZO because if it's not Earthquaking, which it doesn't really want to do against Vivian, it has to hit single target. So Vivian's super handy for that. Tailwind is great for speed control, but it's really all about the Compound Eye Sleep Powder. I have a very high chance to hit those, and I think Grace's team in general, besides Espeon with Magic Bounce, is pretty weak to sleep. So I want to try and make the most of that if I can. Here's the spice. This is the really, really spicy pick here. We're doing Crocodile with Anger Point and Mirror Herb. This is... Hear me out, okay? So Intimidate would be good if TDOZO brought Unaware, but I can't really guarantee that. And I think Oblivious might be wanted based on my team. Our moves are Earthquake, Power Trip, Stomping Tantrum, and Protect. Here's the logic, okay? Anger Point, when you get crit, raises your attack fully. You get +6. Okay, so if the opposing TDOZO is unaware, it's not going to care. It doesn't matter. It sees those stats. It's like, what does it matter? It doesn't do anything to me. If it's not unaware, I just destroy it. It just the whole team gets destroyed by +6 Earthquake, right? There's like nothing that can take that. A really unique aspect of Crocodile is this move that no one really thinks about, and it's Power Trip. Power Trip is the physical dark type version of stored power. The more stats that you have, the more damage it does. Just by hitting +6, this thing hits ridiculous base power. Let's calc it together, shall we? Let's take a look. It starts at base 20, and then for every boost, it gets +20 power. If I hit +6 attack, all of a sudden, this is doing 140 damage. Even if TDOZO doesn't see the boosts, that's insane. That's almost a Hyper Beam. That's a ton of damage. Now it goes a step further because of Mirror Herb. If I can put Crocodile in when TDOZO Tatsugiri do their merge, Crocodile will get all of their stats. It'll get +2 in every stat, and if I haven't been crit yet, I'll get +2 in attack, which is great. So the Mirror Herb lets me pick up all of those stats, and if TDOZO's unaware, it doesn't care. If it's not unaware, Crocodile is insane. It goes absolutely crazy. Now, I do have to be concerned about like Espeon doing a Psych Up, but my matchup in Espeon is good anyways, so I don't have to worry too much about that. I think Crocodile in general's matchup is really good, and Grace is going to have to prepare for it, but this is just so spicy. So going back to Valiant's crit set, I'm able to crit myself if I find myself in the right position, with Leaf Blade if I go Terra Grass on Crocodile, or Night Slash, which does very little damage to Crocodile if I'm not terastallized, which is fantastic. So the crit goes in, I will get my Anger Point, and then Crocodile just goes to town. It's tricky to, like, I think this might only win me one game, but honestly, that might be all I need. So this is I like this a lot. It's very, very silly, but there's a lot of synergies with Valiant and Vivian and Crocodile, right? And if this doesn't work and we need a contingency plan, that's where Dragon Ball comes in. It comes in and it curses, and then we just wait on the timer and do our best to survive. That's pretty much the idea. I love this Crocodile set, and it is probably too memey, but I just have to try it. If I'm gonna bring Power Trip with Mirror Herb, like, it's this matchup, I gotta commit. I gotta see what happens. Up next is a Pokemon that's just a kind of a traditional check to TDOZO, which is Rotom-Mo. It's a strong choice specs, grass and electric type attacker. TDOZO, despite all of those boosts, doesn't want to take a specs Leaf Storm. It just doesn't want to. There's just no way. So that's what we're doing. We're doing Timid Specs. We're very fast. We can do a lot of damage to Drifblim and Cloyster and all sorts of stuff. It's a really potent offensive type combination. Electric Grass and Electric Grass with Levitate is really good into TDOZO, because it can hit you with Earthquake. Wave Crash is resisted, and then it's like, what other moves does it has? It relies on Terra Blast, which is often Terra Grass. Rotom's just really annoying for TDOZO to deal with, especially Mo in this situation. So Rotom's just great here. Now, the only change that might happen is that I might put Discharge on this set in place of Volt Switch or Dark Pulse. I like Terra Dark Pulse at the moment because switching to Dark seems pretty good against her team. Like if Espeon gets out of hand, that's just a really nice thing to have as a tool. But I'm not sure if it's required. So that might become Discharge because we do have Crocodile, who is immune when they're ground type, and we have Pachirisu with Volt Absorb as well. Speaking of Pachirisu, let's take a look. So we have Nuzzle, Super Feint, Follow Me, Fake Tears. This is pretty similar to the set that we were bringing last week, but we have Fake Tears this time. Super Fang, great into Dondozo. It cuts its HP in half, just automatically. So like if I do that while I protect with Valiant, for example, and they happen to order up into Valiant, well, they wouldn't because they're a fairy type, but they use an attack like Wave Crash into Valiant. Patchy has Air Balloon, so it can't be hit by Earthquake, and it's also Terra Flying if I really need that Earthquake security. Its HP just gets cut in half, and then like Leaf Blade does KO with a crit, which I am set with Scope Lens to always crit Leaf Blade. So Nuzzle's also just great control. Follow me for redirection for things that like, you know, redirection is really good into Dondozo, especially when it can't Earthquake in front of a flying type Vivian and a air balloon Terra flying Pachirisu. Whoever's partnered with one of those redirection supports, Dondozo's just going to be annoyed, right? Fake Tears is also incredible. If I lowered special defense by 2 stages to make it neutral, Rotom just one-shots it. Unless, you know, no, it just does. I don't know why I said unless. It just does unless they Terra, but I can keep stacking Fake Tears and it's just really, really a lot of damage. It's really good. Nuzzle's just good for the team in general. Super Fang's just useful unless it's against Drifblim. I just like it. Overall, with this draft, Dragapult is like really cheeky and Crocodile is like really cheeky, but the rest of them can kind of function even if Grace doesn't bring Dondozo Tatsugiri. You have to prepare for it. If I'm not prepared for it and I bring just a run-of-the-mill good stuffs kind of team, I'll get swept. So I've committed maybe a little too hard, but that being said, I think I have the right tools to make it work anyways. If they just bring a mode with just more of their good stuffs, like Meowscarada, for example, like Vivian can switch into a Flower Trick. It takes like no damage and it one-shots with Pollen Puff, which is great. Rotom mode takes very little damage. I have Terra Grass on the right pieces. I believe. I don't know. And no, I did put Terra Fairy on Dragapult for order ups, like if I feel like it's going to get order upped and I need more time to hang in there. Curse, Protect, and Will-O-Wisp will it's so Dondozo oriented, but I think it's good enough to handle alternate Dondozo situations where they don't come, or if they're on the team and they don't come to the battle. Grace has brought Dondozo Tatsugiri, I believe, to every individual game so far. I could be wrong about that, but definitely every matchup so far. So too long didn't watch. I'm over preparing for Dondozo, but such is life. And at the end of the day, I think these pieces, independently of Dondozo, are still pretty good. If you like this team, leave a like on the video. If you have questions or concerns about this team, which I'm sure you do, leave a comment. Subscribe if you want to see more. Join the Discord where all the Draft League stuff is happening, not to mention lots of other things like a Pokemon D&D podcast and just general gaming chat. Good place to hang out. That's all I got. You'll see the battle tomorrow. We know it'll be a little late. I am going to the Knoxville Regionals, the closest weekend to where you're watching this video, so we weren't able to do our normal battle time, but it will be up soon, I promise. So probably tomorrow from the day that this video is released. Thank you so much for your time, and I'll see you at the battle.